Welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we're going to be doing a live reaction on the new college football ranking. I haven't seen it yet. I wanted to wait and make a video about it before I give my opinion. So yeah, we're going to get into it, but make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. We're halfway to 1,000. We're at like 512 people for subscribers. So please make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if y'all like the content. If you don't, it's all good. It's number love. I still rock with you no matter what. But yeah, let's get right into it because apparently it's some bull crap going on from what I've been hearing.
Get right to it. Only a half hour to get it done. So let's look
So
at
yeah.
number 25 as we give you the college football playoff rankings brought to you by AT&T.
Okay, Memphis ranked 25th. They beat Tulane this past weekend, so I can see that. Army, I still feel like Army should have never been dropped out of the playoffs. I mean, not of the playoffs, but from the rankings. They got blew. I understand they got blew out by Notre Dame. I mean, everybody knew that was going to happen, but they shouldn't been punished like that bad to knock them out of the rankings. But that's just my opinion. But it's good to see them back in the rankings. I would love it if they made the playoffs. Colorado 23. It's not bad. I hate that they're not going to the Big 12 championship. I would have loved to see them compete and try to go to the playoffs. Okay. This is interesting. Syracuse is ranked number 22. So the committee looked at them as like, okay, Syracuse, this is probably the mindset of the committee. Okay, Syracuse, they beat Miami, so therefore we already had them on the cuffs of being ranked. So we thought highly of them. So we're going to rank them at 22. So with them being ranked at 22 like that, after a win against Miami, I feel like Miami may not fall that far. Because in my head, I'm thinking what the committee is saying, that this loss to Syracuse, who's ranked now, isn't bad. It was a good loss. So that's what I'm thinking. Miami may be still in this thing because everybody is saying that Miami's not, that they're out of it. But I feel like they're still going to be in it. Okay, Illinois. Don't really watch them. The only time I watched them when they played Nebraska. 9-3. I didn't know that was 9-3. That's pretty good. Okay, then. UNLV. They play Boise State for the conference championship. The winner of that game gets in. The loser is automatically out. Okay. That's going to be a good game. Missouri is ranked. Okay. Here's my beef with Missouri. Is this conspiracy thing that's going around that I said in a previous video that Missouri is only ranked because they're trying to help Alabama's schedule or strength of schedule to make it look like they beat a good team? I don't think Missouri should be in the teens. I still think they shouldn't even be ranked, period. I just don't agree with that one. I just don't agree with that one with Missouri, but I just don't think they should have been ranked. If anything, in the 20s. But at 19, I just don't agree with that one. I understand they beat Arkansas, a good Arkansas team, but I just don't agree with that one, man. I just don't. Who knows? But that's just the theory that's going around. But who knows what the committee is thinking? BYU, I would have loved to see them in the playoffs, but start playing bad football towards the end of the season. And that's what happened when you start losing late. You get punished. I hate that. Okay, Clemson. Even though Clemson lost to South Carolina, that loss meant nothing after Syracuse beat Miami. So Clemson is going to the conference championship to play SMU. So if Clemson beats SMU, that doesn't matter. Nothing matters. They're automatically getting in with a bid, with a first round bye. Okay. Iowa State. And Iowa State is basically in the same situation as Clemson. You win and you're in. But if you lose, you're basically out of this thing. Iowa State plays Arizona State. Clemson plays SMU. If Iowa State and Clemson win, they're automatically in. But hey, what does that say against SMU if they lose? We just got to see where they're ranked. But that Arizona State team, my gosh, they have one of the most physical running backs in football. Scatterboo, y'all got to watch him. I don't know if people have been watching Arizona State, but you got to watch him. 15. Okay, in the last playoff poll, they was ranked 12th. They will have to go on the road to play somebody. So with them being ranked up a little higher, I don't know if that changed their rankings in the playoff, or they're still at 12. I don't know, but I got Arizona State winning against Iowa State, and they're getting in. I just got that feeling. Okay. South Carolina. So with South Carolina being at 14, I'm assuming Ole Miss will be ahead of them. I still think South Carolina should be one of the teams that get in. They're the hottest team in college football right now. I mean, they have to. They're playing the best football. They beat Texas A&M. They beat Clemson. They had a close loss against LSU. Who else did they lose to? They got blew out by Ole Miss. That's the thing. The teams that they lost to, LSU, which at the time LSU was a good team at the time. Ole Miss, who's probably going to be ranked ahead of them, if I'm assuming, and Alabama. I mean, that's the only thing why. But with the committee, at this point, wins and losses doesn't, and the committee has shown us wins and losses, it does not matter. They don't mean anything. So if that don't mean anything, then South Carolina obviously is one of the most deserving teams because they're playing the best football, in my opinion, and they have wins against ranked opponents. They beat a Texas A&M team who was hot. They beat a Texas A&M team who was just smoking people, and then South Carolina beat them, and then they beat Clemson. That's my opinion. So who's at 13? Ole Miss. Okay, so with them being at 13, I believe they're going to put Alabama at 12. They're going to keep them there. But me personally, I still think Ole Miss should have been ranked ahead of Alabama. They should have been one of the first teams to get in. Well, one of the first teams out, because the game before rivalry week, so week 11, Alabama got blew out by Oklahoma. Blew out 24-3. They got blown out by 21 points. Bama didn't score a touchdown at all. Ole Miss lost to a hot Florida team. The Florida team who was playing some good football by 7 points. And Ole Miss fell under them. Let that make sense. Alabama lost worse than Ole Miss, but Ole Miss is behind them. Alabama got blew out by 21 points. Ole Miss lost by 7. I guarantee you that same day, if Alabama would have played Florida, the same results would have happened. They would have lost. They probably would have lost even worse. But Alabama lost to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State only won 5 games. They beat Alabama. They won 6. They've lost to teams who are under 500. Like, let that make sense. For instance, Ole Miss, they lost to Kentucky, but that same Kentucky team almost beat Georgia. Like, that's my logic. Okay, Alabama is probably 12. I still don't agree with Ole Miss being on the Alabama. They should be the first teams out, who should be. I feel like South Carolina should be in, and then with Ole Miss. Okay, this is where it's probably going to get shaky after this. I got a feeling something. It's about to be some bull crap. Wow. So you're telling me Miami lost to Syracuse by a touchdown and they fell 6 spots to 12 with 2 losses? They lost to Syracuse, who's ranked now. I would think the committee, when they had Syracuse at number 22, they will be like, okay, that's a good loss for Miami because we already had them one of the outside teams of the top 25. How did they fall out of the playoffs? How did they fall to 12? Let this make sense. They're basically out of the playoffs right now with no extra game to play. People, you know what? Who's next? Is Alabama ranked ahead of Miami?
Lost at Syracuse. No real great wins for the Canes this
Let this make sense. So Miami lost to Georgia Tech. That same Georgia Tech team that almost beat Georgia and took them to 8 overtimes. Then they lost to an 8-win Syracuse team who's now 9-3 and now ranked number 22, which the committee just put them at 22, which is saying Syracuse is a good team to us. So therefore, wouldn't you think the committee would be like, okay, Miami is still in this because they got 2 really good losses. Even looking back on the Georgia Tech loss, it's still good because look what Georgia Tech has done. Oh my goodness.
So far, the committee
what?
Record, but Miami now.
How is Miami at 12? How did they fall 6 spots? They didn't even get blown out.
For Miami after their second loss in 3 weeks, they fall behind likely Alabama.
All right, Greg, come on. Who's number 11?
We look at number 11. Number 11 is
no way. No way. I don't care what nobody says. That the committee is showing us this is brand bias. It is bias all over this place right now. You telling me this is the same Bama team that, okay, Alabama has been the most inconsistent team in all of college football. All of college football. You are at home against Georgia. You blow them out 28-3 before the half. And then Georgia comes back and almost beats you and you win by a touchdown. Then the next week you go on the road to lose to Vandy. You struggle. And then before the Georgia game, you struggle with USF. You then go and just did not do anything against Tennessee. You follow that up with a struggle win against South Carolina, which that should have been a loss because y'all gave South Carolina so many chances to beat y'all, but y'all y'all capitalized on the interception. You struggle with a Mercer team, an FCS team y'all struggle with, but you ain't up blowing them out late, but you still struggle. Then you lose to Oklahoma on the road, who is a 5-win team, and you got blown out. And then that next week, which was last week, you struggled with an Auburn team who only won 5 games. Even though you won by 2 points, you still struggled. This has been one of the most inconsistent teams in college football, but yet it's all about Alabama, the brand. It's all about This is a money move, people. This is a money move. You can't tell me that. Otherwise, it is not. Alabama is only in because the money that this team generates when they are in a championship game or in a championship environment or setting. Let this make sense. And I'm pretty sure the reason that they're going to make that Alabama should be over Miami is because they have more top 15 or more top 25 wins. Ain't this crazy? They have more ranked top 25 or top 15 wins. And I think Miami has none. But this is the thing that I said in another video. Stop doing this comparison to conferences. Miami cannot help that nobody in their conference was really ranked that high, but them and maybe Clemson and SMU. They cannot help everybody else was below average or average. Here's the thing. I hate when they do that because now I'm pretty sure what they're going to look at. Miami has no ranked wins against nobody. They can't help that. They can't help Florida was suck this year. They can't help that. They can't help that they didn't play SMU. They can't help none of that. But yet, you telling me the Georgia Tech and Syracuse loss is getting held, mainly the Syracuse loss, but you're telling me the Syracuse loss is way worse than the Oklahoma loss? So the committee is telling me we're only looking at the wins with Alabama and we're looking at who Miami didn't play and their losses. People, this has everything to do with brand. This has everything to do with viewership, and this has everything to do with money. Because, like, apparently, the theory may be true. The reason why Missouri is still ranked, the reason why they're keeping South Carolina and giving them all this much hope and stuff. I mean, I don't. The committee just screwed. I mean, college football is no longer the best sport, in my opinion. I still love college football, but you got people in a room picking teams other than going by wins and losses. That's just a travesty to the sport. When have we ever seen a 2-loss team under a 3-loss team? People, let that make sense. Let that sit in. We've never seen nothing like that. Okay, Boise State, they play UNLV. And here's my thing. If the committee want to make this little argument about Alabama strength of schedule, South Carolina strength of schedule, Ole Miss strength of schedule, what about Boise State? What about Indiana? What about Syracuse? What about Texas? A lot of these teams in the top 10 have not played anybody. What about Penn State? Their strength of schedule is weaker than some of the teams that's on the outside of the top 10. Let it make sense. But guess what? Why the committee can't do that? Because they don't have that many losses. So the wins and losses has to mean something. It's just in certain ranking positions where it do and don't. This has to be the most inconsistent committee. They go back on their own words. Miami is basically finna get the whole Florida State routine. They're going to get it. They're going to get the Florida State routine. It does not matter. They're going to always put the teams that they want in. No matter if that team has more losses than you. No matter if that team did not win a conference and you didn't. And you did. But anywho, let's get back to the rankings. That's my rant.
They're in a win and end situation.
Okay, number 10.
Unlikely to make it. But the reason it's
I feel like, where would Boise State be if they didn't play Oregon? Where would they be ranked if they did not play Oregon? Would they be top 5 in the country? I don't know. They play Oregon. I think they would run around saying, who did Boise State play? I have not heard anybody say, who did Boise State play? Other than Boise State is playing some good football, which they are, but still. Indiana is at 9. Just like they're saying, strength of schedule. Everybody was complaining about how was Indiana ranked this high, but they don't play nobody. And this is why a lot of teams will stop listening to what the committee is telling them. They're going to stop scheduling top 10 opponents because apparently Indiana is still in the playoffs and they lost one game and they're still in. But Clemson had to literally claw their way back up to get into a playoff contention before they lost to South Carolina. So where would South Carolina be if they didn't play Georgia the first game of the season? Well, Clemson. Where would Clemson be if they didn't play Georgia the first game of the season? So if I'm a coach, I'm not scheduling hard teams anymore because the committee held that against me, but then they didn't hold Indiana to accountable for it. They ended up putting them in the top 10, and they never thought of the top 10 since. Texas never played nobody. SMU. Who has SMU beat? Who has Notre Dame beat? Who have they played? So if I'm teams, stop playing teams in the top. Stop playing harder opponents. Just do your thing. And they can't keep you out. Okay. With SMU playing Clemson for the conference championship, if you win, you're in. But in SMU position, are you gonna get put out? Are you gonna get put out? Because if you lose, how far we fall, and the committee has came out and said that they're not going to hold teams accountable for losing their conference championship. They're not going to be held against them. But I feel like that Alabama team is still going to get in. That Clemson team may sneak in still. I still feel like that if I'm SMU, I am shaking in my boots. I am shaking in my boots because do not believe what the committee told you. Do not believe what the committee is saying. They screwed Florida State last year, and that was telling them the same thing. You win and you're in. Win your conference, win your top 25 games, strength of schedule, all kind of stuff. Florida State still won everything, and they still got screwed over and got left out of playoff. Literally the last game, well, not necessarily the last game of the season, but literally the last game for the conference championship they won, and they still put Alabama and Texas ahead of them and booted an undefeated team out. So SMU, don't believe nothing what the committee is saying. How they're saying we're not going to hold y'all to that much, like hold y'all to like this extreme measure if y'all lose. You know, we're going to be very light with you guys, but don't believe nothing what they say. You should be nervous. Do not believe them. Tennessee is at 7. That's not a bad spot for them. Okay. Who's at number 6?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We have not seen Ohio State yet.
How far are they? How far? Oh, yeah, Ohio State. How far are they going to fall? I thought they would be like number 8.
Who gets the home game? And this is huge.
This is crazy. I would actually have them at like 7 or 8. I would not put them under SMU though.
Ohio State needs to play.
I would put them. Yeah, I would put them at 7. I will put Ohio State at 7. 6. Okay, people. Another inconsistent thing that the committee did. Ohio State lost to Michigan, and Ohio State was number 2. They fell 4 spots. Miami, and matter of fact, this is Ohio State's second loss. 10-13, they lost to Michigan. How in the world did Miami fall 6 spots? 6 spots, and they played a better team. If you put Michigan and Syracuse on the same field, Syracuse win that matchup most of the time. They're going to win. Syracuse is going to win. How did Miami fall farther? They fell 6 spots, and Ohio State fell 4. Let that make sense. Let it make sense. This is, like I always say, this committee is so inconsistent. How the heck did Ohio State fall 4 and Miami fell 6? Let that make sense. And Syracuse and Miami lost to a now ranked Syracuse, who's now 9-3, and Michigan is 7-5. The committee is so inconsistent. The committee is inconsistent, y'all. They've proven that. I'm pretty sure I know the rest. Oregon number 1, Texas number 2, Penn State number 3, Notre Dame, Georgia probably 4, Notre Dame 5 maybe. Georgia at 5. They went up. So just because Georgia Tech went to a thriller with Georgia Tech, they went up 2 spots. How is Notre? Here's the thing. See, the committee's so stupid. Why did you put Notre Dame at 4? They can't be ranked at 4. You have to put them at 5. They can't be no higher than 5. Why are y'all still putting them at 4? Here's my thing. Here's my rant. And I said this last video, and I will say this forever. I would not put Notre Dame in a playoff spot in the playoffs at all until they get into a conference. This team should not be nowhere near the top 25 or in a playoff position until they join a conference. This is unfair to SMU, Clemson, Georgia, and Texas, and everybody who's playing in a conference championship that's literally on the brink of losing their spot in the playoffs if they lose. And this team gets to just chill, not even in the conference. First of all, they have one of the worst losses in the top 25. They lost to NIU, Northern Illinois. They have one of the worst losses, and yet their best 2 wins on the season was Navy and Army. Notre Dame best 2 wins of the season was Navy and Army. How are they ranked 4th? If I was a member on that committee, I would personally bring in Notre Dame, the coaches, the whoever, every spokesman for Notre Dame. I would tell them, if y'all don't get into a conference, y'all will not play for a playoff at all. Y'all will not even be in the rankings. But I will still rank you guys just to show y'all where y'all will be. But every time y'all get in the top 25 or go higher like they are 4, I will always put an asterisk right beside y'all. And that asterisk at the top of the screen will say NA. It will say NA, not eligible for playoffs. And right beside them, I will put the team who are actually be in their spot. I will show them, if you join a conference, this was where you'll be. But since you're not in a conference, there will be an asterisk right beside you, and right beside the name Notre Dame will be the team who's going to be in your spot. So if you don't get in a conference, you're not touching this playoff. I just don't get it. It's so stupid. Well, Tennessee isn't playing for a conference championship. Indiana isn't playing for a conference championship. But here's the thing. They're in a conference, and they were competing for a conference championship until they took the losses. So it's not like they just wasn't in a conference running away from that. They were in a conference trying to compete for that. It just so happened that they got put out of it. Notre Dame don't have to worry about it. They can just sit back and relax, and they know they're good. And I think that's just unfair to everybody else. It's unfair to SMU if they lose. It's unfair to Clemson if they lose. If Georgia, if they lose, who knows? Here's the interesting thing. If Georgia and Texas, the loser of the Georgia and Texas game, how far will the committee drop them? If Georgia loses, that will be their 3rd loss of the season, which comes from a conference championship game. How far will Georgia fall? How far will they fall? If SMU loses, how far will they fall? How far will they fall? So if I'm Georgia, Texas, and SMU, and Penn State, but Penn State, I still feel like they'll be in. I still feel like Penn State will be in. Me personally, Georgia and Texas will still be in if they keep it close, no matter what. But at the end of the day, the committee just showed us it's not even about the most deserving, the best teams. It's all about which team brings more eyes, which team brings more revenue, money, and views, and viewership, and sponsorships. So that's my reaction to the top 25 team, aka the top 12 teams. Comment who y'all think should be in, who you think shouldn't be in. Did the committee get it right? Did the committee get it wrong? I understand is that Alabama and Miami spot is probably going to be the talk of everything. But tell me you guys thought on the Alabama situation, the Miami situation. Did they drop Miami way too far? Should Alabama even be in the playoff? I personally think they shouldn't. Did they screw over South Carolina? And tell me about the conference matchups. Do you think the teams who's going to lose going to be out? Or just let me know. And that's it for the video. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. And I'll see y'all in the next one.